Steph, I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. How are you doing? How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good. It's a joyous day, as they say sometimes.
I love the word joyous. So what are you watching? What are you binging right now?
Right now, in terms of messy TV, I am watching Perfect Match on Netflix.
How's that
That
going?
It is a disaster, but it's fun to watch. Like if you watched all the other Netflix reality dating things, it's like bringing all those people together. So I'm watching that. Back to Last Week Tonight because I love late night. Back to Daily Show because Hassan Minaj is hosting this week, so very excited to watch him hosting. And then I just started rewatching. Have you watched Kunk on Earth on Netflix?
No. What is that about?
It's a mockumentary, like historical mockumentary, where this like host Philomena Kunk is talking about kind of the history of mankind, the history of the world, but it's very dumb and stupid, so funny and so good. So if you want something fun, lighthearted, delightful, but just like a little bit like I hate to say stupid comedy, but it's just fun and silly. She has no idea what she's talking about, and it's thoroughly enjoyable.
Okay, no, you know what? I like delightful, so I might get into it because I've been binging The Wire, and
Oh,
I'm just like, wow,
yes.
I'm so late to it, but it's so good. But I know after this, it's like I need something light and fun and delightful.
Yeah.
So I found out about you and your work after finding out that you were on the Harry and Meghan project, and so I wanted to know how that came about and what really attracted you to that project.
Yeah, I mean, for Harry and Meghan and pretty much like a lot of the projects I've worked on, at this point, it's mainly been through recommendation. Even my first job, straight out of like when I decided to switch over to production, a friend from college was basically the one who brought me into my first job. And from there, I think every single project except for one was someone recommending me because someone had said, "Hey, she's amazing." And then going on to like your other question about, what kind of draws me to a project. Yeah, everything I've worked on, I think I get this little like flutter, I guess, inside of me where like I start hearing about the subject matter. And when the light bulbs in my head start going off, and I'm like, oh, there are so many facets of the story that I would love to kind of help uncover as best as possible, whatever the team is willing to let me participate in when it comes to story. Like, if I start feeling that and feeling this pull where it's like, ooh, there's some untapped real estate here that I want to try to see if I can help bring that out in this, then like that, those are factors that make me say, like, I want to work on this. And additionally, something that I found even more recently or in recent years is that I've been thinking about work life balance a little bit more. And also, as I'm going through the interview process for something and seeing what a project is available, asking them questions, I do start thinking about what is the structure of the team, what is a timeline, like
Yes.
all of those things have become bigger and bigger factors and reasons for why I say yes, because I am finding myself wanting to have and preserve a bit more of my time for me and not dedicating so much of my time and energy full time to things, which you work in production too, and it's like sometimes when you're on something, you're like, you give it everything, and like, the timelines are tight, the budgets are tight, and now it's like I'm taking that into account as I'm deciding on things moving forward.
I really love that. And I'm going to take that with me because I think the one thing that I was doing was like, okay, what's the story that I can tell? And then that would be my yes. But I wasn't necessarily thinking about, what are the hours going to be like? What is the team structure and things like that? So I really love that. I'm like, I'm taking that with me. So you also worked on the documentary for Mary J. Blige. What was that experience like? I want to say, as an audience member, man, like it was so lovely to see her. I feel like once you get a documentary, it's like your flowers. It's like, yo, we are excited to see your journey and to be able to go through her journey and like remember some of her songs or be reminded of her hits. It was so special. So, what was that like for you? Like, what did you learn?
Yeah, I mean, I think two big things that I learned on that project. I think the first one was honestly from just like a personal skill set level, because I came in, the reason why I said yes to that was I'm a fan and I want to contribute in any way to that project, because like
Absolutely.
I grew up on Mary. Like, when you have an opportunity to help tell in any way like the story of someone you grew up on, you idolize, because you want to make sure it's done, at least try to make sure it's done correctly and done in a way that's like respectful to someone who's deserving of their flowers. It's like, yeah, I
Absolutely.
wanted to come in and like do what I can. So on the learning front, this was my first project where I was very heavily rooted in archival. I hadn't had any archival experience. So I came in with like some story work and story experience. So a lot of the research work was stuff that fell under my plate, but archival and really understanding archival, that was a huge learning curve for me. And I was really fortunate coming in that like I had a network of people who literally, when they were like, you're going to be doing some archival work, I was like, yo, can you give me some advice? Because
Right, that's
I
nice.
don't even know. Yeah, I was just like, and so that was a big learning curve for me. And just gaining that experience has helped me exponentially too, because now where I'm at, it's like I can really think creatively about archival and how to use it. As opposed
Mhm.
to then it was like, oh, okay, this is this whole workflow, but you really need to understand and go through that experience to learn like, how is archival being used? How does it benefit story? And also, is it like what's the visual language of this archival as well when it comes to how you're trying to tell the story? So there's a
Mm.
lot of facets involved in how archival is used. Like when you watch things, it's interesting seeing how archival is intercut because it can be used in a variety of ways. And then the second thing I took away from that project, more on a personal level, was just understanding self advocacy, like learning how to advocate for myself, I think, which I hadn't done before, but it was something where I was like, oh, actually, I think I need to advocate for myself. Like this thing is needed. So maybe I should use my voice and ask for it. And I hadn't done it before because when you're
That's good.
new in the industry, like you're just like a yes person. You're like, I got to take on everything. And going back to work life balance, I was recognizing like, ooh, there's a lot, like I can do a lot, but there's also a degree where like I need help. So like being able to advocate for myself and ask for when I need something, I think was a big learning curve on that project too.
Did that feel scary at all? Like, was that something that you had to kind of learn? Like, was there a stress in that you had to learn to tolerate?
Yo, the stress, the worry I felt asking for help because, like, I grew up in a way in which it's like you work hard and it's a whole like work twice as hard to get half as much. Like that's the mentality I have. But like there's a certain point where working twice as much is like or twice as hard is too much. Like,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that's across the board. So it was nerve-wracking. I got lucky that in that particular situation, like there was actually a person on another project, a line producer, who worked in the office directly behind me. And so she became this very like a mini mentor, so to speak, because we were like, in arms with each other. She was stressing on her project. And like I would just go into her office sometimes and we would just have conversations. And when I was going through the process of like even asking for an adjustment to my title, she sat down with me and was just like, this is what I want you to do, this is what you should do, this is what you should ask for, because I see the work you do. And it's just like learning from her. I learned so much and took so much from her because she was someone who was just like, she saw it and was just like, no, you got to do this. So I think it's like, yeah, it's so rare to find those people too anywhere and everywhere. So to have someone just sitting in the back office,
Listen,
just like, hey.
I feel like God gives you what you need when you need it, right? Because like for him to
Yeah.
know that in this part of your journey, self-advocacy was going to be important for you and he gave you a tool, someone literally sitting behind you. Like I can't. He's so crazy.
Yeah, it was just luck of the draw. I mean, she brought me olive oil from Italy when she went on her vacation. Like we got to be close
Love
during that
that.
period and it was so helpful. But yeah, I think those were like the two biggest things I learned on that project, a new skill set, which was really important to me because on every single project I want to be elevating. And so
Absolutely.
it's like I know this skill set, what do I need to work on now to help myself, to help me get to the next thing?
I love that. I mean, one of the things that we talked about during your pre-interview is that you write, right? Like you're currently writing a pilot. How do you prepare to write your best work? What does that process look like for you?
I think I'm honestly still figuring out a new system. I think coming out of a job at the end of last year and then going into this year, I'm still navigating what my workflow is because I am discovering that like I'm more productive when it comes to my own stuff when I'm in a coffee shop or not at home. And I think a part of that is because I've gotten so used to working remotely from home that what used to be my creative workspace is now my like day job workspace, which makes it hard to
Mm.
transition from work in the same space to personal creative work in the same seated space. So I'm now going through this interesting I like figuring out how do I reconfigure my home work environment or create different pockets that like this is where I do work for work, this is where I do work for myself, and having them still feel like, create environments within both setups that make me feel inspired to do work as well. So I have some artwork to put on the wall that I need to do that to
Yes,
again
yes.
help to cultivate that. So yeah, I'm still kind of working through that. But when I'm in the zone, I'm in the zone. Like when I go to a coffee shop, it's like I'll read a couple things and I'm like, okay, this is the thing I need to work through today. And so yeah.
Absolutely. Like, it's crazy because I feel like when I'm in a I do enjoy working at home, but when I'm in a coffee shop, it's like I work 3x faster. It's really kinda crazy.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I know that I'm working on is boundaries, like setting boundaries within my friendships, within my relationship, within my family, at work. And so I'm curious for you when you're in production mode, what does boundaries look like? Like, do you have to set boundaries with your coworkers or friends and family in production specifically?
That's something I'm very much trying to work on. Like, it's really hard sometimes for me to set boundaries because I think I get so, like, I really care about the work that I do, and when I'm in it, I'm, like, fully absorbed in it, so it's become sometimes difficult for me to set boundaries across the board because of this personal investment I feel where I, like, wanna touch so many different facets of going on. I want to be involved in so many facets going on. But I think, like, speaking like to your question earlier, I think part of the boundaries are going to come from also being very particular about what I say yes to and working
Yes.
towards preserving more of my time for myself and proactively doing that. So, whether it's just like trying to find projects too that like I know what I want my focus to be. I know I want it to be rooted in shaping and like helping craft story. And so, how about focusing on jobs that will let me mostly do that as opposed to jobs where like I've had to do logistics plus story research plus, archival plus
Yes.
anything and everything, trying to be more particular about like, okay, I can set a boundary by trying to isolate projects and jobs that will allow me to do the thing that I love doing, but also still allow me to preserve some of my creativity for myself so that I couldn't put the best energy and more energy into the creative projects that I want to also be doing and
Right.
developing and writing. Like, yeah.
That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful how if we make one decision to choose ourselves, it can really create a lot of space in other areas of our life. It can change our whole life, just one decision, like your
Yeah.
decision to say yes to projects that allow me time and space, like can change the way you move in other parts of your life. I think that's really beautiful. And I want to go back to you talking about projects that you like and that you want to focus on. As I mentioned, you're working on your own pilot and you might be working right like on a show or a documentary, but so what does discipline look like for you, like in order to get these things done?
I mean, on a base level, I just think it's like showing up for myself every day. Like I used to do a 7 to 9 a.m. working schedule where I would do work for me in the morning before work and give myself my freshest creative self. But then if
Mhm.
you're on days where you're working late, sometimes that's just not feasible. So for me, I think discipline is like as long even if I give myself 5 minutes every day, 5 to 10 minutes, I can show up for myself for 5 to 10 minutes every day. Usually
Right.
that ends up being longer, but I think it's like you get into it and you're like, "Oh, this 5 to 10 minutes is not enough, like, I need more time," but I think discipline to me is just, like, showing up for myself, and, like, right now, a lot of the work I'm also trying to do is pushing through my fear and my insecurities because I feel so much more secure in doc right now because of the fact that I've spent a number of years in that space now where you build that confidence, where now it's like I'm trying to take some of that confidence and funnel it into my own work because I've kind of lost a bit of that confidence when it comes to my own creative output and
Mm,
like going through that process. So the discipline piece is actually going to play into and is starting to play into the fear, the insecurities as I'm approaching like more of my own work again. with fresher eyes because I've been on a long break and it's been beautiful to have this time off.
No, but I mean, I love that, and one thing that I'm enjoying about you is, like, you're very self-aware, and I'm curious, how long have you been that way? Like, have you always been very self-aware?
Maybe to some degree. I've always been a very observant person, but also I think over the past few years especially, I've been really trying to do some more personal internal work on myself and recognizing like what are the cycles I'm trying to break that I see myself practicing and
Mhm.
trying to be conscious about those things so that I don't keep repeating those cycles. So I think that's been part of why like there's a bit of a self-awareness to me now because I've been recognizing things and going through the process of trying to just disrupt that,
Yes,
leaning into
yes,
the
absolutely.
uncomfortable essentially. Like that's what it is. It's like leaning into the things that make me uncomfortable because sometimes you got to shake things up for yourself if they're not working essentially.
Absolutely. And, can
Yeah.
I say on the other side of that, one of the things that I've been paying attention to is also the things that are working. I feel like I'm
Mm.
constantly like focused on what I need to do better, but it's like, what
Yeah.
am I already doing well? And then how can I become better at that? Like, how can I spend more time doing that? So I love what you said. And I was like, yo, I'm always trying to make things different for myself. What about what I already love? You know what I mean?
True.
So when you think about the work that you're doing in production and in your life, like what do you want people to say about your work, about your, upcoming pilot when we get to see it, hopefully, right? Like what do you want people to say about it?
I mean, I'm not fully sure. Like, I think
Yeah.
when I think about the work that I hope to do, I think at the end of the day, it's like I will feel accomplished if I feel proud about what it is. If I feel proud about like how it turns out, I don't know if I'm necessarily looking for outward validation. I'm
Mm.
more so looking for just am I proud of the work that I did in this? Am I proud of my contributions in this? Everyone could hate it, but more so about how I feel about it to
Yes,
and
yes,
lean into that because the second I feel like I start seeking outside validation, there's a small part of me that fears it might devalue how I approach work moving forward because once I recognize a cycle of like, oh, people are attuned to this and like this, I don't want anything to kind of diminish in my creativity in a way where I'm striving to replicate that type of validation as opposed to just like, if I'm proud of the thing that I did, that's really all that matters to me at the end of the day at this point.
listen, the girls are gonna love you, okay? Like on the podcast, the girls are gonna love you because you are just so like you're clear.
I
You
try,
are
girl.
clear.
I try. I try, but like yeah, I just like again, I've been going through this mental process of really just trying to like be kind to myself and also just be gentler with myself
Yes,
and
yes.
just like approach things in a new way and it's been very beneficial going through that because again like anyone who knows me knows I have crazy expectations for myself. I have crazy goals. I work myself to the bone, but now I'm in a point in my life where like it's okay to work hard, but also take time for yourself,
Yes,
for
yes.
reflection, and take care of yourself. So that's kind of the state that I'm in right now, for sure.
No, I mean, I love that, and so I'm a book girl. I love books. I am obsessed. So what book have you read most recently, book or books that you feel has been most supportive in your journey?
Um, I think of the books, speaking to you, talking about, where like leaning into the things you're good at, but also right now I'm also trying to lead into the things I'm trying to get better at.
Mhm.
So one of the books I did read recently, because as I'm trying to rework this pilot and work through a new version of it, I'm recognizing that like my approach to characters isn't what it used to be. So
Mm.
I recently read a book called like Creating Characters, Let Them Whisper Their Secrets. Let them whisper their secrets. And I read through that and it just kind of like sparked some new approaches to character that like I'd kind of had kind of fallen by the wayside. So that was one. I've been going back to reading a lot of fiction and essay collections. So
Oh,
like
what fiction? What fiction? Tell us.
well, right now it's not a very happy book, but I am reading The Bluest Eye, Toni Morrison. I
Yes,
had
yes.
read it before. There's a couple books on my shelf. I love fantasy too, so a friend of mine had gotten me a couple of the Wheel of Time books, that Amazon show. So I'm gonna read those. But also like yeah, nonfiction I love because I do read a lot of essays, but I think like other things that fuel me is like I still have my New York Mag subscription. I
Yes,
love
I love
reading
the cut.
print magazines and like I don't know, I feel like the times when I was reading and consuming a lot, especially like the more journalism style writing, it also helped me as a writer because again as I'm reading these things it's understanding structure and a short form structure, even reading long form pieces, it's like what is making me want to keep reading this. So yeah, I guess this isn't like one of the questions, but part of my like reintroducing the magazine reading practice or article reading practice is that back in the day it was something I did intuitively and I could see the changes in my writing as a result of consuming that stuff outside of just novels. So it's like
Yeah, that's good.
this like reclaiming process I'm going through. It's like, yeah, I want to start to reintroduce a lot of the things I was doing before that made me a stronger writer and seeing how that will impact me. And, it'd be nice to look at something I wrote like 6 months ago compared to, the end of this year and how my voice has adapted and changed because I'm reading that stuff more and more and more. So yeah, I think that's like
Exciting.
the
No,
thing.
no, but I love that. I love a magazine. Like I'm all at the airport, I'm always getting magazines. It's really a delight, and I feel like I learn so much because of the diversity of the content. So I feel
Exactly. Diversity
um,
of content.
I love that. So, how do you find joy? Like in this season of your life, what does joy look like, and what are you most excited about?
On the joy front, gosh, we did touch a little bit on the pre-interview, but like one thing I did introduce this year was like the solo weekly dance party. The
Period.
joy that brings me just like letting loose in my apartment and just like putting on something like I think
Yes.
I put in like 90s club mix like Hadaway and La Bouche and I was like, yo,
Girl, you was getting it. You was getting
I was in it big
it.
time, but it's like that's something that brings me joy because it's just like a revitalizing thing and there's a free quality to it that sometimes you just don't get in the day to day and it's nice to just have those like silly personal moments. But like besides that it's like being able to see my friends again, connecting with family, like I consider myself to be a musician as well. So the moments where I can like work on music or even just listen and absorb because I feel like I try to constantly be learning and being more curious about things because I feel like that also makes me more of a fully formed, fully fleshed person. Just maintaining and sustaining a level of curiosity, I think, brings me joy as well. So, yeah.
No, I love that, and I really appreciate your transparency and your clarity. I think like I feel like you're a woman with discernment. Like you're like, oh, I know that this will work for me or this won't work for me, and I think that's really beautiful. And I'm like really excited for the women, the audience, to get to learn more about you. I do want to wrap it up with like, what are you excited about? What are you looking forward to in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about the new job I just started. Actually, right before this call, I had a meeting with the team.
Yes, congrats.
About that. I'm excited to kind of push through working on my writing samples this year and hopefully coming out of the on the other side happy about them, but also ready to, and knowing that like, I'm on an also new writing journey again that I hope will take me to where I want to go as a TV writer, maybe feature writer one day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think those are like the two things and just like excited to be on the other side of the pandemic and just like reclaiming a lot of the things that the pandemic took from me. So,
Period.
like,
Period.
just kind of going on that journey. I think those are the things that I'm excited about. It's just like continuing to learn and grow and evolve and claim my shit. So,
Well, I love it. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on Creative Women Want It.
yeah, thanks for having me and like obviously stay connected with me because yeah,
Period. Wasn't that good? Steph, oh my God, Steph. I really enjoyed her. I feel like that really felt like a conversation. We were just talking and I was just being inquisitive. It was so good. I enjoy her. I'm just excited to continue to connect with her because I'm excited about her journey. And if you are too, please make sure that you like and subscribe. If you enjoyed this, please leave a rating and a review to let me know what you thought about this episode. I'm so excited. I'm back with another one next week. Thank y'all so much for listening to Creative Women Wanted.